places of honor, he told them a parable. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not sit down at the place of honor, in case someone more distinguished than you has been invited by your guest. And the host who invited both of you may come and say to you, give this person your place. And then in disgrace you would start to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit down at the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher. And then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For all who will exalt themselves will be humbled, and all of those who humble themselves will be exalted. He said also to the one who invited him, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, in case they may invite you in turn and you would be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. The word of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Luke gives us a wonderful opening of history going on here. It's like we've been taken and invited into the past. And notice the opening sentence that kind of sets the whole tone of this small section of Luke. On one occasion, when Jesus was going to the house of the leader of the Pharisees to eat a meal on the Sabbath, they were doing what? Watching him closely. Now, it's interesting, you see, because we often give the Pharisees a bad name, but in this case, he actually is curious about this Jesus, and he actually invites him into his house. Come on, sit with me, come have a meal with me. That is the ultimate friendship. You kind of form a bond with these two people, much more even so than it is today. And as usual, notice how the next sentence, when he noticed how some guests were chosen as the places of honor, Jesus tells them a parable. You may recall another part of Luke's gospel where he's at the temple and he's kind of leaning up against the temple and he's watching people as they give money coming in. You remember the widow's mite? Jesus is always kind of watching what's happening in the world. And he takes these common things that are happening in the lives of what's going on during this time, and he brings them to kind of a new level. That word that I used before, eschatology, which simply means not only resurrection after we die, but seeing the kingdom of God and the possibility of when it's happening just here and now. Because that's all we have to work with right now. Most of us don't know what the kingdom of God is after resurrection. You may talk about it, you may guess about it, but the reality is this is us here and now. It's all we got. And he takes this whole group in and he talks about it. And he sees how people are looking for the place of honor. Now this just isn't a story of social etiquette, although you could take it that way. You know, we see banquets where there's a front table and the people of honor are up there. And these are the ones who everyone needs to be seen, you see. And us, if we're invited, we're kind of the peons, you know. You've probably gone to some weddings and you're looking for your table, and all of a sudden you find yourself right next to the door where the waiters are coming. And you have a basic idea of where you sit in this place of honor. It happens, but, you know, and we sometimes think, well, how did I ever get here? Well, you don't have to guess very far. You already know what the guests of honor are thinking about you. And it's kind of humiliating, and Jesus understands that. And here are all these people, and they're kind of vying for each other. Let's get closer to the guest of honor, which means they also want to be close to the Pharisee and Jesus, because Jesus will be also in a place of honor. And he watches this. He watches human nature. And human nature always wants to elevate itself. You know, I think I belong here. And then the host comes along and says, no, you belong here. And he sets up this whole humiliation factor and brings across this whole idea. And once again, he ends it by saying, for all who exalt themselves will be humbled, those who humble themselves will be exalted. Does that sound familiar? The kingdom of God turns everything upside down, highest to lowest, lowest to highest. That's Jesus' constant reminder of what the kingdom of God is all about. And our expectation is, hopefully when we get to heaven, is that it won't be like we think it's going to be. When crabby old Aunt Tilly is up there, and we say, how did she get here? And not only that, she's in a higher place than you are. It's human nature, isn't it? But now you've got this whole little situation of etiquette, of propriety, of how we live and how prideful we can be. And now he takes that little sentence and he goes on to this next one, which is really kind of incredible, because now he pulls in eschatology. What the future of the kingdom of God will be like among those who are in that lower class. And he says probably to a very bewildered Pharisee who has invited him with this unbelievable expectation that he lays upon his back. And he said also to the one who invited him, when you give a luncheon, did you know they had luncheons back then? It sounds so civilized, doesn't it? We'll have a luncheon together. Or a dinner. Try this instead. Don't invite your friends. Don't invite your brothers or your relatives. Or don't invite your rich neighbors. Why? Because in case they may invite you in return and you will be repaid. Tell me this hasn't happened to you. Well, I'm not inviting them again because they never invited us back. Tells you what they think of us. Yes, sirree. Or that delicate Christmas time card list. You all know what it is, don't you? Well, they haven't sent us a card in 2 years. Write them off. They're not worth a stamp. We judge people by how they treat us. And Jesus says, yeah, that's true. As a matter of fact, most of the time when you give a luncheon, Mr. Pharisee, you do expect something in return, don't you? And God help that person if they do not. Write them right off of your invitation list. Now, when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Why? Because they can't repay you. For you will be repaid in the resurrection of the righteous. What does it mean to do something for someone who can't possibly repay you? When there's no more expectation that we'll get an invitation in return because they don't have the food to feed you. This is Jesus taking what he sees in the ordinariness of life, and he raises it to what we call eschatological levels. And he opens to us a possible vision, not of how we think, but rather how God thinks. And we see these things in front of us every day, most probably on television. We see the little 5-year-old that we talked about last year, Dusty, sitting, bruised, bewildered, a brother who dies the next day. This is the kid that should be invited to the feast. Now, we have to be careful because the most frustrating thing is to see a picture like this and not be able to do something about it. And indeed, there are thousands of incidences in life that we're going to see and hear about where we really possibly can't intervene. If you're like me, you wanted to dive into the TV and pick that little 5-year-old into your arms and say, come with me. I will take you away from your pain. I will feed you. I will nourish you. But I can't. Neither can you. So we pick and choose, don't we? We decide which programs our church can do, what we can support, what manpower we have, and what a perfect lead-in to what we're going to do here on September 10th. together, we did over 13,000 last year. We're hoping to do more. I think, where's Marty? We have reached how much so far?
4,500.
4,500. We asked you to give 30,500. You gave 4,500. And so that is what we're trying to do, is to take to heart what Jesus says to this Pharisee. Invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. And here's the upshot of that. The people who receive this are never going to repay us. They can't. They won't even know who we are. But that is what eschatology is all about, isn't it? Taking that kingdom of God, you see, which we say, oh, we'll see it after we die, and pulling it right down while we're still living. Making it real. Taking away starvation from people who may not have known where the next meal was going to come from. That's just one program that we have decided to do. And it's something that we have to continue to do. And I think the upshot of that is for us to become skilled, baptized Christians, not in what the church does when we're gathered together, but when you go out to work, when you go out to shop, when you walk around in the world that exists outside this building, and take what you have learned from texts such as this and say, where do I see a need for the kingdom of God to break through at this moment? It can be as simple as kindness, as opening a door, assisting someone at a moment when they need to be helped. And it's just not, you see, something that you do because it seems like proper etiquette. After all, the beginning of this text is all about etiquette, isn't it? Where to see yourself. Take it beyond etiquette. Take it beyond opening a door. Take it beyond all of that. And when you do it, you will enter into that second phase of this text this morning. And you will invite somebody, the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, whatever, into a new vision of what the kingdom of God is all about. It's so easy. We almost overlook it by saying, oh, this is just proper politeness. No. Once you think about it and you carry it around in your mind, this last part of the text is inviting people into a new way of thinking, that there are people out there who think differently, who are not always searching for the higher place, but looking for the people who have been taken into the lower place, and saying to them in that moment of